over some really basic, easy principles, how to hold the stick, how we can do strikes, how we can do non-combat forms of just flow, getting to know your object that you like to work with. So, sometimes I'll even work with an axe. I don't recommend it unless you're quite skilled. I've had some practice over the years living in Canada, throwing axes and chopping wood. And the basic thing to know is to be safe. So before you start with anything sharp or dangerous, as you can see, I have on my eyes and limbs. I don't have any serious injuries, so I've been doing something right. Before you start with anything dangerous, even a practice sword such as this, right? It's, as you can see, it's safe, but if you can still quite injure yourself with this, it is still steel. So, another thing, if you are using a, you sheath the sword in the scabbard, the sheath, whatever. When you sheath it or you unsheath it, you don't pull the sword out so much. You can a bit, but mostly you're pulling the sheath away, right? Then you can strike. Because if you pull it out, you're over here, right? If you're thinking about combat. Now, in this day and age, most of us aren't planning on fighting with swords, right? But it's a really good way to stay active. It's a great way to engage our physical bodies. So why don't we grab a stick or a dowel? If you have a long one, it will work too. You can use a short one like I'm using here. Now, I'm going to take my shirt off so you can see what's happening with my muscles, all right? So, when I'm holding the stick, the first thing from the side, we want to have a nice posture, okay? So, we don't want to be like too much down. So we're going to fix that posture first. What I like to do is I like to kick my legs back a bit, pull my shoulders and back while lifting up my chin and crown. And as I'm doing that, I might just do a few swings left and right. So when we hold the stick, we want to only hold it between our thumb and our finger, okay? So you do have to develop the strength and the muscle in here over time, but we do baby steps, right? We're not going crazy right away. But the aspect of this is it's an extension of your body. So just like if you're boxing, you don't always clench your fist because it tightens your muscles and fascia and you can't move quickly. So you stay loose until the point of impact in which you strike, you grab, you form a tight fist as you strike, if we're talking combat. Now, some really fun little flourishes we can learn are I call it, there's different names for it depending what you do. It's called a high guard in any type of sword play, of German swordsmanship or European swordsmanship. It's called the high guard, and you can do it double-handed with a Zweihander or anything, right? So the high guard is just drawing a circle here, coming up. As you come up, coming to your backhand and your forehand. So before we get there, we're going to learn how do we hold this. Like I mentioned, you already know this. We're holding it just between our thumb and our forefinger, okay? So first we're gonna learn how to just drop it beside us, okay? So it's almost like we're about to strike and then we'll just let it go. Now if I let it go like this, look what happens, right? Oh, that doesn't do anything. So what we want to do is we want to turn our wrist when we let it go. We just let it go for a second and grab it again. Grab it lightly, and now we're going to go the other side and do the same thing. So it's going to look like this. If we come on our outside, it's going to look like this, okay? And we can just stick. Sometimes you'll lose it, and that's okay. If you really want, you can get something with better grip. I almost never lose my sword, but the stick almost always flies out of my hand, especially when I start sweating. So let it go, let it go, let it go. And ideally, when you can do this when you're coming down. It's got a better flow to it, right? And then when you're coming up, same thing. You just go the opposite way, okay? Now you can spin the stick faster if you grab in the middle, right? If I come like this, it's gonna go a lot faster, but you don't have a long hitting range, right? So the next thing we're gonna learn after we've done the outside is gonna do the inside, okay? So that's gonna look like this, like that, okay? So drop it and then grab it. So we're gonna drop it. So we're gonna let it go loose like this, and then we're gonna grab it. So quickly, it's gonna look like that. Okay? So let's do that a few times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Now, what we do on one side, we should always do on the other. My left arm's awkward, but I'm going to show you it, even though we're live. So we're going to flick it behind us. Remember to keep that wrist loose. You can even do some wrist loosening exercises before and after. Make sure you hydrate, okay? Oh, on the side, on the side, on the side, on the side, on the side. Now we're going to go on the inside, 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 inside. Let it drop, strike. Let it drop, strike. Let it drop, grab. Let it drop, grab. Let it drop and grab. Let it drop and grab. Now let's try to complete the circuit, right? Not so much let it drop and then grab it up, but let's get it all the way around. Again, we're just coming on the inside here. Now let's go on the outside. Let's do 10 times each side. Now that we've got let it loose, right? Let it loose, grab it. Let it loose and grab it. Let it loose and grab it. Let it loose, grab it. Let it loose, grab it. You see how that makes the strike? Let it loose and grab it. We don't want to bring it back here too much, just boom, boom. And as you become more familiar with it, you'll learn, hey, this is loose and that's hard. This is loose and hard, 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 loose, and it gets quicker and quicker. So again, let's do both sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so something I didn't cover yet, but which is necessary to know, or you might hit yourself in the head. If you just stand and you start doing this, look what happens. Oops, right? So we can have one foot forward, now take a bit of a bladed stance, especially if we're going to do the sword, because then what's going to happen once we combine these movements, we're going to have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And once that gets faster, it's going to look like this, right? And that's what I mean. Sometimes you got to be afraid to lose it, because if you're not, you can't get better, right? So let's bring it back. Remember, both hands are connected. Always use both hands. All right? So we're getting into a bit of flow here. Now that we have the basics down, okay, we can incorporate some cool techniques. So we have the striking down, right? Outside and inside, and outside and inside, outside and inside out, right? Now we also have outside and inside, but the other way. Now notice what's happening with my body here. Whoop. So with my body, and you watch any of my other videos about Qigong, you'll notice that it's a whole body movement. And when you have a stick or a sword or anything, even if you're just playing a sport, it's all your full body, right? You do train specific parts of your body, but ultimately what creates the power is your full body. It's the transfer of weight from the ground. And I'm going to go barefoot because flip-flops are a bit dangerous. They don't give you as much grip for this. So now we've covered our basic, and we've covered coming up. Now we can have different positions. We can be striking down. We can be striking down, but in the middle. We can even be striking down, but up high. And we can strike up, but down low. We can strike up, but in the middle. And notice what happens to my elbow here as I'm coming up, right? So we can have this figure eight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blah, 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 right? It's coming like this. Or we can have this 8, you see? Now we also have the higher one. So this is what we call high guard. I'll kneel so you can see it better. Let's see if I can go back. There we go. So that's our high guard. Notice what's happening with my elbow with each one. Bringing it in or out. So it's all about that wrist and hand position. Ultimately, we don't want to be going too far doing these big haymakers. We want to really refine that with our wrist. But we want to be using our whole body, right? All right, so now we have this down. We have the up. We have these nice little rolls, all right? So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to make a little combination. So behind the back, we're just going to swing behind us. Now what happens if we swing behind us? It's going to come back, right? Come back, right? But if we swing and then we bring our shoulder forward, try that out. So what happens if you swing and bring your shoulder forward? Just allow the momentum to continue. You'll find as you swing behind you and you bring your shoulder and elbow around, you get an extra strike. So 1, 2. So try that out. 1, 2. Chamber behind you. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Now when you get that, remember this strike here, where we just go up and up, and we're coming, striking up, and we're rotating that in like throwing a pitch, throwing a baseball, coming up and up and up, and then bringing that elbow up and up, okay? So now we'll combine the movements, coming up, turning the elbow around, and then up, up. So all together, it's going to look like this. And we can combine it by shifting that weight with our hips. That's what we want for power, right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Strike behind 1, 2, 3. Strike behind 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. You can keep it going too, right? Good. Try the other hand. So bring it behind you, strike behind, around, around, around. And once you get here, all you have to do is drop it behind you, right? Because once we come around, we're striking around, striking here, striking a backhand. But once we're here, oh shoot, how do I get there? So once it comes out here, all you do is you just drop it behind you again. So you come out here, drop it behind you, and repeat, right? Drop it behind you, strike, strike, strike. Drop behind you, strike behind, bring your arm around, do a full circle like a sun, coming in with the elbow, the hand and wrist follows. You grab and strike at the end. All other times is loose. Loose and now tight, strike, loose, let go, strike behind, bring your elbow around, comes a nice circle, strike here after first bringing the elbow. You can shift the hips, push off the ground on one, and sink all your weight onto the other glute, right? And so when I strike this way, I sink all my weight. I push all my weight. I push off the ball of my foot here, and I allow all the weight to transfer onto this hip. That's what creates our power and maintains our balance, all right? So then I'm going to loosely allow this to drop. Now I'm ready to strike. You guessed it, when I strike this way, I'm going to again shift my weight, 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 right? So practice your weak hand and then go back to your strong hand. You'll find you're going to be way better with your strong hand. So some other cool things we can do is to just practice finding where the center of balance is in your stick. Now, our bodies are pretty cool. You'll find that if you want to spin it this way, spinning it left, or I don't know if it'd be counterclockwise or what. Anyways, spin it this way, like a forehand frisbee, I guess. You're going to come across your body with it. And if you want to come away from your body, you can do the reverse. So you spin it that way, right? And you'll also find if you lift your arm up like this, you can continue that range. It's pretty cool. You can get 2 or 3 in. But it takes practice. You start to become a little bit more familiar with your hand. Now, the longer the stick, the easier it's going to be, right? Because there is a bigger center of gravity. So grab whatever you have and try that out. Something I like to do is do this, and come over, do it again, 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 come over. Now this one isn't, the last one I showed you is very much more combat oriented. This is more just for show, right? Something you can add between something if you're a fire spinner, or you just like doing different kinds of flow. It's also very useful for badminton, hockey, any type of sport where you have some sort of stick, right? Now, martial arts is just such a wonderful thing to do. Mostly because it can give us confidence. It allows us to be safe with materials. As we progress, we can use things that are, well, a bit more considered dangerous, but they're safe now for us, right? It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Now, again, this is just a fake practice sword, but it can still really hurt someone. You can take someone's eyes out. You can easily sever an artery by stabbing. So be careful. I don't recommend using a sword unless you're trained in it. So just be careful. Go find a nice teacher. I mean, I am one, but I don't have extensive tutorials on YouTube, nor am I licensed for it. So please don't send that back my way. That's a full disclaimer. So if you want to do the full wushu sword, there's not really much, I don't have the best camera angles here, but if we want to stab, the best thing to do is to put your fingers like this and to stick straight out, if that makes sense. All right? So that's another thing we can do with the sword, but you can do the same things that we were doing, right? So starting by just allowing that to come beside you, and now it's a lot more important than the stick to take that bladed stance, right? So we're gonna come behind us, come inside us, behind us, inside us, right? And a sword is much easier to handle than a stick, actually, because the stick is quite heavy, whereas a sword is traditionally balanced quite lightly, and we can do some cool things with it. So one thing I really like practicing is the high guard. Now, we don't want to just be all arm. While it's great, it's just an extension of our body. So when we strike, we come with the full body, right? That should be something we're training all the time. So again, we can do our side figure eights, keeping that wrist loose. We can do our vertical figure eights, right? We can do a high guard. We can do a low to high, high to low. Again, there's endless combinations. And you can do the same 3 strikes. Now this sword's great because you can strike with both sides, right? But if you're using one blade, still the same. You're gonna come around. Actually, it's not the same, my bad. So if you only have one blade, let's say this, you can paint one side of it, or mark it so you know which one. But another thing is just knowing where your thumb is, right? Knowing where your thumb is, knowing that that's the blade. So you can strike behind. And instead of just bringing your elbow and shoulder around and like striking like a stick, because then it would be the flat, what we're gonna do is strike, and we'll kind of tweak, launch our glute a bit, and we're gonna kind of do a little bit of a crunch and bring our elbow all the way around. It's hard to explain, but basically, you're going to come all the way like this, stepping out with your leg, and you're going to strike with that same blade. So if this is the blade, initially it would be this way, right? But as we strike down, the blade is facing here, and as we come around all the way, it's going to change positions, and it's going to strike right there. Yeah? You see that? So again, that's why we have to step out. So that was our first strike. There's our second, and there's our third. So fast, it's gonna look like that. Okay? So we can practice that. Again, the main thing is staying safe, right? Again, this is just a practice sword, but even if you have a practice sword, it is metal. Like I said before, it's very easy to sever an artery, take an eye out. So practice with your stick first, and then work your way up to a sword. Unless you are at an actual school, then you can practice as much as you want. So let's think what else I can go over on here. Well, we've gone over the high guard, keeping our wrist nice and loose until the point of contact where we push off the ground and sink all our weight onto the other leg and glute. Okay, so we have point of contact, the strike there, the strike there, the strike there. Again, we're just coming around, coming in with her elbow, and we're out with her elbow, loose wrist, until the point of contact, using our hips and driving our body to develop that torque and power, right? We're not standing here gripping tight and trying to hack and slash. That's not going to do anything, because it's an extension of your body, and it's much better to do 2 powerful strikes than 1 shitty strike, or 1 powerful and you're exposed. Now again, this is mostly just a mental exercise and for confidence and exercise, right? In this day and age, we don't really need a sword. We're not going out to battle, but it's a wonderful way to stay in shape, whether you have the stick or the sword. And by practicing this, you can become more functional at really anything that's lying around. So you can have a dowel, you can have a broomstick, and in the event of something happening, you might be a bit more confident defending yourself and your family, which is always a plus. But yeah, before I end this video, let's just wrap up a bit. So we have our full body structure. We have it coming out through our limbs. So the most important here are our legs and our hips, our glutes, that power transfer. The other thing to be mindful of is keeping a loose arms. Your upper body, your spine should be decently erect. But by keeping a loose upper body and just staying loose in general, we can be quite effective. Training both sides, improving the overall, what do you call it? Functionality of your brain? I don't know. It's a wonderful exercise to do, so I hope that you can enjoy it. Thinking if I did too many advanced concepts at once. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that noise, everyone. So just to recap, you can use any sort of stick, any sort of object laying around, and apply these basic principles, okay? Now, while it's not going to stop a gun, hopefully you'll never be in that situation. And most people don't practice martial arts to try to kill someone anyways. It is for defense, but also for confidence, you know? If you're practicing martial arts, chances are you're very good on your feet, you're very good at running. So I always advocate, like any good, sane human being, if there is a situation, you should run away. Why would you want to fight? It's so silly. Someone could pull a gun, someone could pull a knife, you could be dead, you could even kill them. And if you're well trained, but something goes wrong, you accidentally knock them out, they're drunk or whatever, they hit their head on the sidewalk and they die. You go to jail for years for manslaughter, right? So don't be stupid. Don't let your ego get in the way. If you are in a situation, as soon as you size it up, two people come at whatever, doesn't matter. You're gone, right? That's probably the biggest benefit of martial arts, is becoming more aware of not only your own body, but through exercise and meditation, introspection, we begin to learn things about life and other humans, right? By learning about ourselves, and we can sense dangers in a way. Some people call it ESP or intuition, but any of these practices increases that. So, you know, get yourself out of those bad situations faster. I never advocate fighting, but I do advocate for physical and mental health and enjoyment of life. So however you want to get there is pretty wonderful. I like to get there through different kind of sport. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed. Remember to stay loose. Bring those elbows in for your forehand strikes, and bring those elbows out, pushing out, using your core and your power transfer for your backhands, okay? Forehand, backhand. Everything's connected, using both hands. Keep your face protected and have fun out there. Namaste. How do I end this?